This is Rebecca Forney from Canfield, Ohio, and I'm listening to Nursery Podcast.
Welcome to Nursery, a podcast from Ohio's Creative Voice. My name is Tim.
I'm Crystal.
And we're interviewing Lee today.
County who like bands like Glenn.
Hey, how you guys
Hey man, and bands like the Grub Stubbers and stuff like that, and Rydell's to get started. And so like I actually have a thank you that I owe to bands like the 3-chord pop punk of
that
like
no
Northeast
longer
Ohio
exists.
that might not exist anymore. And we sure as hell don't necessarily sound like now, but we have the songwriting, like we have like songwriting influences of those bands, realizing that we don't have to be.
You don't realize what you realize now, where writing a song is the same as writing a poem or taking a photograph or doing a painting, but not rip them off.
Right.
But
that's what's funny about it, is that like.
But that's not what it's about. It's about expression.
But it sure as
it
hell isn't about trying so hard to be original, lose the soul, which is like what happened to us at our worst moments.
And then I don't think we ever
like that's what's weird about it, is that like I think there were times where I was like, you have to follow these rules in order to make sure you exempt yourself from ripping anyone off.
Right.
And like that's not really cool either. Trying to sound like somebody is fun.
It is, because then you get to a point where you've developed your own style. Therefore, you're sounding like them,
like by accident,
in your way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So other people hear it and say, "Oh, that's
that
third class."
But
you're going, "This is Ben Folds."
Yeah, man. You ever heard yourself and not known it was you? That happened to me once.
No.
It was really nice. Yeah, it felt good because I liked it. And I was like, who is this? I like this. And then I went down the basement, and it was kind of like it was mute. It's nice to know that, like, the farthest you could ever get from your own music, I still liked it. I was like, oh, maybe I am making stuff that I like. I'll never know. I'm too close to it.
Right.
But that was the closest.
You've had stuff on In the Ether.
Yeah.
For almost 20 years. That's a long time. That's a long time. I've been in 10 different.
Should do more what you're talking about almost, like where you just like in every avenue possible, every band you can get in, every video you can possibly upload, every studio you can work with. He was like, you just get out there and as many feelers as you can, or as many irons in the fire as you can. So that was cool to hear him say that.
That makes sense.
Because some people are like, no, I'm saving it, reboot. No, that wasn't me. That was not me anymore. Shut that down. This is the new me. It felt good to have a body work that I still am a little bit proud of, though I realize it's really weird at some points and stuff.
Well, but that's okay. That's your Dylan period. Your blue period. Your whatever.
Picasso,
Yeah. Now let me ask you this: what is in the water, so to speak, at your mother's house? Because there's you and your brother. Of course, Pepe, he lived there, so he's a brother.
He did live there.
Different parents, but he's family. Your brother Steve does music as well. And I remember back in school when everybody lived there, it was set up like I realize now, like this is in retrospect, what an artist's flat would be like. You know what I mean?
And you're right.
And I don't know if that was your mom just encouraging it, because she had her own space, her room. You don't go in Karen's room. You don't touch Karen's books.
Don't touch her books. She has it though. But yeah.
But we would have these rock and roll shows in the living room below her bedroom, and she just was yours, the whole house. It was a big place.
To ruin.
But she had her little spot. Now, was that her encouragement, or is it just something genetic?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was in the water. What was in the water was like hippy dippy personality. Like what was in the water was like probably something that if it existed in California or Oregon, where I was born, or New York, something that would have been more commonplace and maybe reined in even, but because it got more out of hand because she was so laid back. And her and my dad by no means were really hardcore artists ever. Like
well,
they
she's
were,
more of a
consumer
academic.
of arts and literature, and he wrote literature and submitted poetry to the New Yorker. And he died in '93 of skin cancer, and so I like, on my best days, my justification for what we do is we're fulfilling some dream he didn't have. But on my worst days, we never got to live up to his potential because he was a doctor and was renowned for it. Like he was like a very well like established doctor in like herbal remedies and chiropractic and a couple other very natural like
a naturopath.
So it's weird because he submitted to the New Yorker.
Yeah.
They gave him a feedback. They were like, "This is really good, but not for us," which is like more than you could dream for the New Yorker.
Right, for sure.
But you know what he did?
That's
he looked
incredible.
at it and he was like, "Didn't make it."
Didn't make it. Keep going.
Whereas me and my brothers are like, "Yeah, they published us on somebody's
blog,
kitchen magazine they made in their kitchen."
Right.
Yay. So like
a zine.
Yeah, we were in a punk zine or something. Like, So it's two different mentalities. So on one hand, I feel like I'm living some dreams that they never fulfilled.
Right.
But on the other, I feel like in their heart, genetically or whatever it came from, the reason when they were younger, they were in Portland, Oregon, and they were traveling and they were paying attention. My mom went to Woodstock and stuff like.
Shut up.
Yeah, and like. The reason is because genetically or somewhere in their heart, they appreciated art, if not were some sort of artist. So we came from that, but the encouragement was there. But it's weird because they weren't like a super musical, like outwardly. They both just really loved music, and my dad was like how you are, and how you probably are, Crystal, and how I am, where he got kind of encyclopedic about the bands he really liked.
Sure. So he was a nerd.
Yeah, he was a nerd about music, and he liked like Guy's Night and like the Capitals and lots of R&B and Motown and stuff. So that got to us in a good way, but they were more fans. So it's interesting. I don't know why this happened.
Well,
but don't you think that so like my parents are technically artists.
Yeah, they're like hardcore
they're
artists.
Activists.
Yeah.
But the same thing is like we had this discussion at home, my sister and I, about like what makes an artist. And I don't, because I consider all of us artists, but we're doing it in public. Like, we're visually showing it. Like, I'm a visual artist, you guys are both musicians. Musicians.
Yeah, I am a magician.
You are a magician. I do that all the time. Anyway, and so, like, to me, an artist is more of the mindset as opposed to actually creating. There's two different ways of doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's two ways of, like, doing that. You have your mindset, that so many people are artists, but then you have that little bit of, now should I put myself out there and do it? Because all of us are in incredibly vulnerable fields. Because we are expressing our, we're doing it logically, but we're also expressing our feelings.
Right.
And so we're like giving our hearts out to the world and being like, here, take it. If you don't like it, sometimes that's hard.
So it's like modern art exhibits where like the exhibit itself is okay, but it's the interaction with the viewers that makes it real.
Which I learned that through all my schooling at YSU, and then also like knowing Jose Alvarez and all that, that's art. It's the connection between the viewer and the physical object that you created.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so it's the same thing with you guys. Like you guys created, so that's one aspect of art. But then also your art
profession has a creative stance that I usually know. Like we're all surrounded by a lot of people who are creative,
right?
And like they're artists under the terms you just provided. Like
and to add on to that, I have to think. And I've thought about this several times in my trying to get to sleep, when you get those thoughts.
You don't sleep. Go ahead.
I have to think that anybody can be an artist. It's not like, yes, some people are born with natural talent, but anyone can just decide at some point, I'm going to express myself through whatever. And then say they can learn an instrument. They could learn to paint. Again, there's a part of it that's always either you have it or you don't. But everyone can make an attempt. It might be terrible from whatever subjective viewpoint views it as terrible. But I think anyone can decide that they want to express themselves in this way. I think a lot of people are timid to do that, and a lot of people have other things to do and don't feel the need to express themselves. Whether it's people that just have to go around making money, or things like that. People of different mindsets, and I don't mean to deal in stereotypes, but like take it back to high school, your jock set. They would appreciate music, but they wouldn't, unless except for some of the guys that we knew that they would cross over, be in a band, things like that. Or like in the marching band, we would have football players during halftime in uniform march with the band and play their instrument, which was always interesting.
Those people were just, to me, like superhuman people. They're just awesome.
Right.
Like they're
like
actually well-rounded.
They're everything.
Yeah. I wish I was that person.
Yeah, for sure. Me too.
Yeah. And sometimes people say that in a negative light. You're saying it in a positive light.
Oh, yeah.
But some people
Anyone
look at
try.
paintings and they're like, I could have done that. And you're like, I don't care. You didn't.
Right.
Like that. I don't care who did it so much as like I care about like what I'm making it into after I see it. Yeah.
And like I said, the appreciation of whatever it is subjective. Mm-hmm. You could make a thing and a certain group of, that's called a fan base. A certain group of people go, this is amazing. And I love this. Like you guys with Aspasia. She loves your music.
Yeah.
So much. Like when we played the thing for you, the benefit.
All right, yeah.
The entire show, she was there next to the stage, eyes closed, singing every single word.
She was.
She connects with that music for some reason. Whereas someone else might be like, oh, these guys are on. I appreciate what they do, but I'll
they'll be
hang
like,
out.
I'm going to go smoke. Yeah.
Right, that sort of thing.
Yeah, like the Zoo Show.
Yeah.
Right, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, how did you, let's go back to, have you covered how you got into the Youngstown scene, meeting Khalid?
Yeah, a little bit because I had him on, but I saw him. But just to like reiterate that real quick, I saw him in front of the McDonough art playing acoustically when I was attending the YSU Art Festival with my mom and my brothers and Peppy. Yeah, and he was playing, and we were like, "Can you play Ben Folds 5?" And he was like, "No, I have a guitar."
Right.
And I was like, "Okay." And then he played another song, and he was like, "Any other requests?" And we were like, "No, Ben Folds 5." He's like, "Again, I can't do that. I haven't learned it on guitar." And we were like, "Okay, you know Ben Folds 5 or so?" So then we'd attend that, and we had our own band before we met him, and so he tried to. At one point, wanted us to be the zoo band and combining forces. We never got there, but it was really nice to have shared some of the same experiences in booking and advertising and writing, and collaborating then later on. To with him, and we've always had our foot in the zoo camp to at least a small extent, if not a large, because even on the Zoo Kills 2, Peppy and I are singing vocals on one of the tracks. We're always somewhere, and he's always somewhere in our world. So it's nice to have met a big-time Youngstowner from these Palestine people that didn't know a thing about it, because he was much more marketable and promotionally inclined.
Well, and this is even before the zoo. This was Khalid.
Yeah, it was just him.
Ampersand. Khalid ... whatever that's called.
I know how.
And then he had the traffic camps.
I
For a
forgot
minute.
about those.
And then later on it became the zoo, and then the several incarnations. Let's face it, the zoo is Khalid Tabara.
It is, and then they just have.
And then Khalid and whoever's playing tonight is the zoo.
Which is, he told me recently that he really likes that.
No, it's great.
I like that too.
Because what he likes is he likes the fact that he can work so many months on the zoo, and then he can work so many months on what is it, Ren Rooster, I believe. The name of the band
Ren
is.
Rooster. Yeah, Ren Rooster.
Yeah, Ren Rooster, and then he can work also helping Katie Ann.
Yeah, K-8. Yeah, I like that too. That sounds like a fun thing to just, because he's like, as much as like, it looks like I can't put it down because I have the podcast skits and music.
Right.
Khalid is similar to me in that he can put it down and I can put it down.
Yeah.
And he can put the zoo down and go to K-8.
Yeah.
Not think about it again for a while. And
right.
As much as it looks like I can't do that, I can. Once I write a song, it's done. And like it can change or whatever, or it can not. But it doesn't bother me throughout the day. I don't sit there thinking of ways I can improve it. It's done.
It's done.
Yeah. So like that's what I admire about him is that he can move through it and still be promotional about it without feeling like he's like he doesn't feel like it's consuming him, I don't think.
Right.
I hope not, anyways.
Yeah. Well,
I hope none of us feel that way about art.
No,
he gets a bit obsessive. Katie Ann gets real
obsessive.
She
gets lost in her tracks, right?
But
That's
she's
what I
amazing.
hear.
When it comes to making music on the computer, she's like logic.
But that's more of a wizardry thing than anything I've done.
Well, it's also the nature of that music because you have so much control over it. You can be precious about it. Whereas if you're recording a guitar in a room, like the track that we all remix, you're going to get it done and, okay, that sounds fine. Sonically, that sounds fine. When you can manipulate every single sound on a track, I've been working on an album for a year. I've been working on it for a year. I've put some stuff out, but I'm not done yet. I need to play it for somebody, and they can tell me I'm done. Because I can absolutely, because I'll obsess over a snare drum, and in the same way that she does it.
Yeah, man.
Because you have, and so it's the downfall of that type of music, because
anybody could get sucked into that.
You can get sucked into it because you have so much control.
Yeah, my brother Jack does that too with his side project.
Right.
His other project, I shouldn't say side, but his other project, Juche.
Yeah. So it's very easy to get lost in. And some people never finish a thing because how's that snare sound?
Yeah, it's just like, I was just talking to a guy who works here about him putting off his master's degree and having a first and second extension and stuff, and it feels like that. I'm sure it feels that way with electronic music too, where you're like, put it off. I wrote about 10 different theses that all would have passed just fine, but I can't put it down. I made about 20 different tracks that all would make great songs on a 10-song album, but I just can't seem to stop down the rabbit hole.
Which what we all should be doing is releasing 10-song albums every time we get 10 songs, and then just building that up. And this one's okay, that one's okay. But it also you lose a lot of what people feel is natural about music, and this is why a lot of people don't like. I was having a conversation with Todd last weekend, 2 weekends ago. I was down at his place, and he was saying the reason he doesn't like electronic music is that, and he's a guitar player from way back, he's a songwriter, is that it sounds manufactured. Even if you attempt, Moby did a track, and it was on wanting to work on some stuff. I was
Rock
trying
Radio All Stars.
Well, no, that was our group, and then he had one called.
Why am I not remembering?
Hard Luck.
That sounds good because
I don't know if he'll ever put anything out because
But it's good that he's doing it through the veil of electronic meets bass meets a little bit of rock or jazz or what.
And because there's a human element to it, so it works.
Because I think of him, not to pigeonhole him, but I think of him. And I think of a few bands, and even those bands now are way slicker than they ever sounded in there.
Sure.
If I think of bands like Superdrag and Not a Surf and the Get Up Kids, if you think of their first releases, they're full of just messy train wrecks of imperfections that are so slick.
Well, I think they can they're in such it's their job, it's their life. They can just go, all right, here's a pop song.
Yeah, just
boom. And it's amazing. And it's always going to be amazing, but it's not quite, nothing will ever hit me, nothing they do will ever hit me the way that radio track that they had, Not a Surf.
Popular
hit me at a time when I needed it, like so much music does. Let's get back. I wanted to say this, and maybe you can shed some light. Divorced, there's a lot of tension there. My sister and I didn't really talk, but your family, and maybe it's because your father died. You guys,
when we were younger, we were always pretty tight and got along well. And the last 5 years, we've had a lot of trouble, and there have been a lot of fights and stuff.
Oh, really?
Maybe some of the reason my youngest brother Steve travels is not because he can't stand the family, but because he gets itchy feet and probably would be irritable around us for that reason.
He's got to keep on there.
And then my brother Jack, I think him and I have some ego problems where we clash pretty hard because of similarities and differences and stuff. And it's it's just because we're brothers.
He's also a middle child.
Yeah, and
no offense, Jack.
No, and I'm the oldest. I'm controlling and stuff, and so
and Steve likes to be taken care of.
Steve's like the youngest and once babied on one stance, but is a lone wolf in the other because he's young. And
I can do it on my own.
Yeah.
I'm out in Seattle. Catch me now.
Yeah. And so I've been inadvertently thrown into the dad role more than I'd like to be. And
but I think that's a result. I mean,
and that's not nobody's fault. But we've had arguments. Jack and I went on a trip to DC, and I podcasted it.
Yeah.
But him and I fought the whole time. We had a hard time, and there was lots of just big arguments over little things.
But you're grown at this point.
It's funny. Why would it happen now?
Well, maybe because it never happened before.
Yeah, we're going through a patch now where hippie communal vibe that happened so much in our childhood that now we need to be our own people and kind of get out from under each other.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
So it's the reason that I sometimes plug, aside from just that I'm an actual fan, some of Jack's. Jack does visual art and other music outside of third class, and Peppy does vegan desserts and his other thing outside of that, and sometimes does visual art. And some of the reason I play solo more these days is because as much as like we love being in the band, we have to show each other that we're our own people.
Right.
Like it's kind of unhealthy to just have me be the leader of this same pack over and over again. You have to turn a corner, and it's really painful.
Other than the fact that there's some corporate entity behind them, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Like I didn't realize that when I was a kid. I'm like, Weezer,
these guys are all pals.
Weezer's still together.
Yeah.
They're best friends. They might not. So, but you don't have that. So it's actually that stress isn't on you of making money for a corporation.
No, and if it was, we'd probably break up. And
right. But you also want to express yourselves individually, and you're all able to do that. The show, you're like, yeah, I'm part of this, but here's my specific voice.
And I hope the podcast can bridge some gap we have between some online relationship with other people and the real world relationship, because I hope that I can drag them along with me through this podcast by using their recordings and once in a while having them on here and have us turn a corner where it's not about us lugging amps together and arguing right up, but I needed something to supplement. So this is therapy for all of us to do this, because otherwise, like, I don't know, like to just keep playing the same old haunts in Youngstown and play the same songs, and even to keep releasing new stuff isn't enough anymore. I don't know why, but it's like you need new venues and new avenues, and I don't mean music venues in Youngstown. I mean new venues to express the thoughts and music and stuff. So we're going through whatever you may have been jealous of as children. We're getting our come up.
We're like that, and I've found peace with that. But like you love your family in a very deep way. I think it's similar to Crystal. She and her sister fight like cats and dogs.
Yeah, I mean,
but they would fight to the death for each other. You know what I'm saying? I can treat her that way, but you better not. That sort of thing.
Yes,
she does it all.
That's the essence of.
And you guys have that, and that's just me being sour grapes.
No, I've seen sour grapes from the other end. My brother Steve wrote a song about how he'd much rather have my father have gotten divorced than died. So he's sour grapes on the other end and stuff. Like it's interesting to think about the grass is greener thing, because he was like, I'd much rather you live and fight with our mom than be dead and not not have us idolize you forever after. It's interesting.
And that comes back to, and I wanted to ask this earlier, just to put a coda on it. To this. Do you ever feel trapped by that?
A little, like no one pressured us to do this, obviously, but I do feel
you pressured
trapped.
yourself.
Yeah, I did it. Yeah, if anybody, you're right.
I'm sure, and I'm sure if he could from beyond the grave say, it's okay, you don't have to do this. Well, I love you.
I think my pressure comes more from, if I feel boxed in, it's that like none of us are doctors. Like he was a doctor.
Right.
We can't live up to that.
But I don't know that I don't know that you have to.
No, you don't.
I'm sure your dad would just want you to be happy.
Oh yeah, and that's just one of my worst days that I think.
I know, I understand.
I don't feel that way.
Totally understand that.
But I appreciate you saying that, because that is something that all of us, especially my brother Jack, grapples with.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because he is him. Jack is him. That's the same guy.
For sure.
Like
I've never met your dad.
I don't think you met him, but Jack is him. Yeah.
I think I know that.
Yeah. If listeners want to catch one of our videos, if you find Third Class, like there's a video, you'll see Jack when you see him. So I think all that parallels our life in a way that we're like, oh, weird, we got this end of it where he had that end of life. Like whereas in his 30s he decided to like go to school to be a doctor and stuff like that. So it could happen to one of us still.
It's true.
Yeah.
You're still young.
Because that's what happened. My mom always rolls her eyes and is like, I just worked odd jobs till I was like 40, man. Just like, what do you think life is?
Right.
So it's actually comforting to see.
That's actually a really good point.
Yeah.
What do you think?
She just did whatever, up until she fell into teaching English.
Yeah.
So we think we have to be where they are, but it's nice to be living on the other side of like what they didn't do.
Right.
Because they're fulfilling things we haven't done, and we're fulfilling things they haven't done. It's interesting. You meet this like millionaire, like rich guy who's like, oh, I could never speak in public.
Right.
And then you meet this guy. You meet these very creative people that just don't have any money.
Right.
So no, I don't.
And that's the nature of it.
I don't feel I've lost anything. That's for sure.
Well,
But East Palestine people, they just get down on themselves sometimes.
Well, it's just when you come from an economically depressed area, like Youngstown, like Northeast Ohio.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be more. You're like, listen, I didn't eat today, and I need to fix that. Excuse me. And you can just go get 3 jobs.
Yeah, you can if you want to.
He who works like a slave eats like a king.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. you can do that and kill yourself working every day, or you could be like, but if I did this, but if I did that. But we also live in a time and a place where the creative arts are not rewarded financially.
No.
Unless you are part of some corporation.
And there's different outlets now.
And there's different outlets now, right? And you can make money doing YouTube videos. And they get real popular, things like that. You've got 13-year-olds signing contracts with production companies, things like that. And that's the digital world, and that's the world we didn't predict. I recently watched Back to the Future 2. The two things they never called, and none of it's correct, because it's set this year. It's 2015, October 2016. Nobody saw coming.
Yeah, nobody.
But have changed everything.
They have.
They have changed. You have the entire world of knowledge in your pocket.
So weird.
Save a data connection or a Wi-Fi. And that's in a lot of ways the world's better. We can talk to somebody on the other side of the world in seconds with FaceTime, Skype. But we don't know how to feed people in Youngstown. You know what I'm saying? So it's better, but it's at the same time we're in the same spot. So
and I think people's shortcomings in their head will find a way to manifest no matter what you do. So regardless of what technology we have or what things we do have that we think or other people have that we think we should have and things like that, like you always find a way to punish yourself for not having. Like it's like no one else is gonna. Like I remember talking to my friend Mindy, and I told her I substitute teach, and I told her how much money I made doing that, and she was like, "Oh, they should pay you more." And I was like, "I don't make enough money. I knew it. I'm a failure. I don't make enough." And I took this whole thing out on her about my financial insecurities, helps through money somehow.
Well, and they should pay teachers more because that would be.
It was a compliment that I took as an insult.
Right, because you're doing. Excuse the phrase, the Lord's work.
Substitute teaching because you never get to have your foot in the door long
you're there for a day, and you're like, oh, read comics
and you're getting
today.
3 days. You get walked on as
so because they don't know you and they're testing.
So I think those things chase you wherever you go. Like thinking about you're like, my family's not close enough. You think that everybody else sees you and sees that, and they don't.
No,
you're the only one that feels that.
And here's the thing.
It's weird.
It feels like, and we all worry about, regardless if we care or not, we all worry about what so-and-so thinks about me. I do this a lot at work. I worry that, my manager is displeased with my work, or something like that. But she's at home probably thinking about her own shit and life, not thinking about me at all.
She is,
and most people aren't thinking about you 24/7.
If she's
right.
If girls go and straight guys have a big problem with girlfriends going and talking about sex. Girls are very open. Oh, people are these days. I'm annoying in certain ways, and that's okay.
But you're still here. In that vein, though, this is going exactly where I wanted it to. Tell me about your wife.
Yeah, she's very
married.
different. She's like in all departments that I'm not, she's there. She's financially more stable than I am. She has a job that has more technical merits than anything I do.
She's much prettier.
I get her to think, and she gets me to stop thinking, and it feels good.
Yeah.
So to talk about her in that vein,
right.
That's good. If I married someone who was super creative, we might have both just went down some rabbit hole together and never to be seen again.
That's true.
And I know couples like that. It works for them, but not me. I need to fight.
Well,
life is a fight to me.
Sam and
Mel?
Mel.
Yeah.
They're both very creative.
Yeah. But different enough in certain realms.
Right.
That it works. But to me, and people don't like this, but I think life's a fight. And I instigate fights with my wife and try to get fights to happen so that we can move conflict. I'll chase that. I'll chase the dragon.
Get it out of the way. Yeah.
So that's me, though. A lot of people that doesn't work for,
and
I wouldn't recommend it. Sure. That's just how I function. Our arrangement was this, and this has been completely knocked down.
I love
this is, of course, tell God your plans or whatever the saying is. This was part of it. We said this, if I was one of those guys that was like, hey, we should just be together forever.
Right.
We don't need marriage. We don't need a piece of paper telling people we love each other.
Yeah.
The state doesn't own me.
Right.
And she was like, just marry me then if it doesn't matter. I was like, okay, on one condition. We don't have kids. Let's not have kids.
Right.
And she was like, okay, deal. And then as we got older, nearing her 30s. I'm 31. She's 29. She's 30, I think. She's 30. I'm 31. Whatever.
Yeah.
We're in that age.
Yeah.
And she's got baby fever.
Oh.
Big time baby fever. And on top of that, to make it more dramatic, she has ovarian cysts and is unable to be fertile. So there's this ridiculous push and pull in our life right now. It's a big struggle.
Yeah.
And it's been hellacious at times.
Sure.
Where we're like, she has been, like, as a nurse, she's a labor and delivery nurse, I have to mention.
Jeez Louise.
So, like, if the baby fever wasn't there before,
It's certainly there now.
it was there when we worked at a kids camp, or it was
Right.
there when she started her job delivering babies.
Right.
So it's been interesting. We bought a dog. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Jeremy.
listeners, I don't have to explain to you what couples act like that don't have kids and have a dog in their place.
Yeah.
We talked to him.
People-
Jeremy,
a lot of
I'm going to
people
dress
hate
you up
it.
for Halloween. I'm going to dress you up. I'm going to kiss you.
Well, he is your
overly,
child.
make out with you in front of my friends. And, yeah.
Right.
So yeah, we're putting a lot of pressure on Jeremy, our pug, right?
right.
So yeah, it's a weird situation, and if we ended up with a kid, it's
Well, I was
okay.
going to say, does the arrangement stand? And
The
from your
arrangement
end?
stands by accident now, but like
Right.
But,
I mean, you could always adopt.
But if something, we could always adopt, and
Not
we've
to put that out
entertained it.
there.
No, that's something we talked extensively about, and it's weird, and I don't want to jump to any conclusions now, but
Yeah.
she does seem like she actually wants that, and it seems selfish to want your own blood as your family, when obviously I have my friend Pepe as my family,
Right.
and I have people I consider family, and I have a bigger Youngstown family I like to include you guys in.
Right,
but,
of course.
But she, so on her best days, she kind of says like, I'm okay, whatever happens, let's just leave it to fate and not like pursue it. Yeah, I know.
Now you could take your part and her part, and then make it in a dish, and then have someone else.
Yeah,
That's
it's
a thing
like the
that
cell
happens.
phone and computer thing you mentioned.
Right.
It's like nobody anticipated this.
Right.
So I'm not going to say anything concrete
Right.
as far as our future is
No,
concerned, because I have
it's-
no idea.
But
yeah.
I think that's a really good way to be.
Yeah, I hope
I mean, it's
so.
great to make
That's-
plans.
Yeah.
But life is what happens while you're making other plans. John Lennon. And that's very true. So,
And sometimes, like, when people say that, everything happens for a reason type stuff, or whatever, like...
Which I
on
don't
our-
believe.
Yeah, and, like, that's a weird thing to say, but
think
on our
it's just
better
happen.
days, we're like, oh, are we here for some other purpose?
No.
And, like,
You're whatever
we don't know.
purpose you want.
Yeah. And so it's interesting, because, like, we're like, okay, well, we spend a lot of our time helping other people's kids through our jobs. So
you
maybe
want-
that's our thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the positive
every child
spin.
is your child.
But that's the same thing as being like, oh, so my dad was a doctor, so we'll do this other realm of what he was interested into. It's kind of like taking this fork.
Yeah.
So I look at it as okay, and I'm more laid back than her. She has things she actually wants. I
Right.
don't really plan.
Right. Well,
Like,
that
what I mean?
is true, but
Yeah.
maybe that's why you
Work okay.
because she
with it,
is got a schedule,
Yeah.
got a this.
The best I
she
can plan is
requires-
like a show.
Right.
I don't really think
and that's
big picture.
Right. Well, like even this meeting today, noonish.
Yeah, noonish,
Where
long
we
term,
made
yeah.
we cemented these an hour and a half ago.
I can be punctual, but and only in small. I can't be like in 5 years I see myself. No,
I think it's more of a left brain thing.
left brain.
Well,
Yeah.
you are very mathematics.
I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets me in trouble sometimes in terms of art and dance.
Oh,
but-
sure. And
Has that
emotion.
happened?
Yeah.
Has it
happened?
Yeah.
Well,
5 years ago, did you say?
Are you where you wanted to be?
Yeah.
no.
No?
5 years ago, I had a different plan for it.
But you pride yourself at least in having some outline of the next
Yeah.
time. That's good.
I
I
wanted to
guess.
already be out of Youngstown.
Be out. That's good.
Well, but you just
I
finished
know,
school.
but I thought school was not going to take so long.
Oh, you wanted to be out by now?
Yeah.
I see. Where do you want to go?
We're going to go to the West Coast.
Nice. That'll be fun. California or
Probably. I'm from California, so.
right. That's pretty cool.
The funny thing about that is, though, a lot of people in my life, I used to say, if you remember way back when, oh, you're going to move to San Diego.
Yeah.
I don't
You're,
Yeah,
see,
people
when I
like
see
me
them.
and Tim are right in the middle where we're good enough at planning, but not quite good at executing. And then there's people like you
I
that
can
have
make it
the
to work
5-year
every
plan,
day.
and there's people like my youngest brother Steve that have no plan, take $20 to New York.
Yeah.
That like do.
And then end up in Seattle.
Yeah, they're the ones that end up traveling
What?
more.
They
See, I
do,
think it
because
becomes,
they're not-
Profession 5 years. Like I have a
You started that five years ago.
4 years ago.
Man, that's
I
crazy.
started that 4 years ago. This will be my 4th Halloween.
That's awesome.
Weird to think about.
And that just,
Yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to come down Tuesday nights, Tiffany's by the Turnpike. I'm not supposed to say this on air, but if you give me enough money, there are things I'll do.
they're struggling.
Yeah.
That's great, though, because I remember when you got there, and you guys were pretty together forever. I remember.
Yeah, we were together a long time before,
And it was
almost
just-
common law married before we got married.
Yeah, and then it was like, oh, we're getting married, which is something I didn't think
I
you
would ever do.
because I knew your viewpoints, but then I
And you
learned
know
about,
my brothers, they don't
Yeah.
seem like they want to get married.
No, I don't. I know
Yeah,
I
I don't
don't.
either.
And it's funny, like I remember that some people have said, well, and they've used this as an excuse until very recently. Marriage equality wasn't a thing, so people would say, when everyone can get married, we'll get married. Those people are now screwed because they have to get married.
They're stuck now.
So
yeah.
luckily, you never said anything.
No, I
like
didn't
that.
feel that way necessarily.
But you were going to be with
yeah.
her forever anyway.
I felt that way, except for I felt that if we would have gotten married when I actually proposed, which was in 2004, that we would have probably not made it.
Right, that's true.
But that's just a theory
But, I mean,
about
you
young
have to-
people in there.
I think you have to spend time with somebody for at least 2-3 years before you know. And even, in my opinion, you need to live with somebody before you get married, or at least spend, have your own place, but spend every day. You have to know all of their everything before you're like, let's just do this until we're dead.
Totally. And I think a very large amount of people subscribe to that now than even 10 years ago.
Which is good, and I think that's good because like a lot of the religious influence has gotten out of society. It's still there.
It's there, but
in
it's
certain
not
parts.
as strong.
But among young people, they're like, I'm just going to do what I want because this seems to work.
In terms of band names, what made you decide in third class?
I don't know. I think I was walking in East Palestine with my friend Pepe, and we were walking over the railroad bridge. Takes your expectations down. It
Right.
sounds humble.
Right.
And then they were like,
Listen,
third
don't
class
expect
would
too
be
much.
good. Yeah, in order to be
Okay.
humble. But like most band names, it started that way. But now it just has to do with, you just hear it and you think of the music now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an attempt to try to lower expectations.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's really kitschy, and like
It is.
I love your guys' music because it's so kitschy.
Yeah.
Like it's toy
she means
piano.
that in a-
I
yeah.
do. I mean that.
Positive.
No, I use that word myself. Campy
Like
even.
I think of like a toy piano.
Big
kind
time.
of.
Yeah.
Oh, me too. And we use that sometimes.
Now, have you ever thought about going in not a different direction, but doing just an album, you and the grand piano in a studio?
Yeah, I mean, we're
Like
headed kind of
That's right.
there. I don't know how long it'll take, but we are headed to the place where, like, maybe an EP with them as studio accompaniment
Yeah.
would come into place to enable a solo tour.
Yeah.
And that's only to, like, free up me to take all those gigs they don't want to take.
Sure.
And stuff.
Hey, Billy.
How you been, man? Good. So we're headed that way.
Billy from Cedars, everyone?
But Jack and Pep don't really like consciously taking a direction. I do
yeah.
that a lot.
Right,
and they
right.
stop me. I'm like, guys, this should be our ballad album. And they're like, don't box yourself in like that. Just write stuff. And I'm like, and this can be our punk album. And this could be, I say that.
Yeah.
See, I think they're right on that though, because
Yeah.
I do it where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make a piece of art, and
This
I'm like,
could be
this is
this
how it's
kind
gonna be,
of art,
and then it's
yeah.
gonna end like this, and then I realize while I'm creating it that my plan, I gotta go. Like it's a good initial stage, but I just have to let it go. Like I have to let it flow.
That's how Pepe, particularly of the band, talks. He's like, yeah, we should make a punk EP, but if we write the punk songs, don't get ahead of yourself.
Right.
And like,
Have an outline.
I have an impatient.
Don't write
like,
them for the album.
Yeah, don't write
if
it
they
for
come
them.
along.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, there's plenty of stuff that comes off well solo now.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of things that we're working on now that are really slow ballads where they're just as involved in, say, putting the little like highlights on and putting their opinions on the writing and me using their lyrics and stuff, but it sounds more like a little bit more like Nick Drake with the piano blinking in the background than a full band.
Right.
So we're trying it now. It's a little boring to execute, but it sounds really good. So we're trying to find a way where it can be fun for us while still liking the song, which is really hard.
Right.
Like if you write a really good ballad, it might just be boring to play, even if you love it.
Right.
So we're trying
then
to
you
find
just,
a way around that.
You just record it and then never play it live.
Yeah, we're trying to see if that works for us.
Yeah.
Because it might.
What it sounds like is that, and I know everybody has their own projects and lives. I've noticed the only way I can do my music is in my spare time because it's just me. I don't have to get together a group of people. when the Beatles, when Brian Epstein died, is when they stopped touring. He was their manager. And then and then Paul came along and said, all right, fellas, roll, where you're like, all right, guys, we're going to do a thing. And they're like, all right, in our own time.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, and nobody said I want less band. Nobody's told me like, chill out. They want to be there. They love it, but they resent me giving them license to like not be a part. If they were in charge, they would probably play 10 shows a year and play 10 really good ones.
Right.
Whereas my inclination is to play 36 okay ones and hope that some are great.
Right.
So like that's fun for me.
You're like one of the hardest working musicians around.
I mean, he's still like writing prose and doing tons of visual art.
But he's also involved in academia.
Yeah.
Still doing his thing, making money. So it's hard for three people with very separate lives. You're married, you know what I mean? You got your job to come together for 10 minutes. Let alone enough time to put together a show. Luckily, you all know the song so well. You can go, here's the set list.
Yeah.
We'll get through it. And I have not seen a bad third-class show. I'm not going to say ever, because nobody has great shows all the time. In the last 10 years, every time I've seen you, you've all been on.
Yeah, that's
because
good.
You know the material so well, and you can just step into it. So there's an advantage to that. But also, it doesn't give you a lot of time to create new stuff.
No, those guys are just
which
so
is where
good.
you're driving it. Yeah, that's the
those guys are so good at checks and balances with writing, and they really keep us together. And they carry through our like deconstruction. We end up with a sound. But last time I remember bombing was 2005.
Okay.
I don't think there've been plenty of shows that we came close. Plenty of shows that were just like weird.
Right.
But last time I remember like very obviously bombing. It was in Worcester at a coffee place, and the people asked us not to come back.
Really?
Yeah, and it was like...
Because they didn't like the music, or you didn't play with it?
Both.
Right?
It was just bad. And it was like... And so, like... I am grateful that like we've been able to throw together sets that flowed right, were fun, because those guys are just really hardworking, and we've maintained still not really being able to technically execute that well and making it work as a set. It's fun to be like non-metronomic and do that stuff, but like at the same time we need to turn a small corner to survive, and I don't know where that's going. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, and if nothing else, you can always just do this. You don't have any illusions
no.
about fame, other than the fame that you already have.
Just trying to sell a few records.
Just trying to sell some records, doing something creative and possibly getting paid for it.
Yeah.
And I think it's the best attitude to have when your entire job is not music.
Yeah.
But I don't know that you would still enjoy it and love it the same way if it was.
Yeah.
If it's something you had to do.
Because Pepe said...
Rather than something you get to do.
Yeah. Pepe said we used to sit in the basement and write on one, and now what we do is we spend 20 minutes on one song, skip to the next, quit if that doesn't sound right, and move. And that's because of time and convenience.
And it's a good way to work.
Yeah, it's good. He didn't say it was bad, but he was like, we would just get completely caught up in like getting the rhythms when we were young, and now we're like, here's the loose structure, move on.
Right.
So it's really odd as an adult.
But it's also, you've been playing together so long, I know what it's like to play with somebody for a long time. You know when they're going to do a chord change. You know it. You just feel it. It's a vibe. It's in the music. It's something. There's no word for it. It's just playing music together.
Yeah, and sometimes playing simpler enables more of a chemistry.
And you're also able to say more within that context.
With less.
I remember a quote from Matt Sharp, original bassist of Weezer. Sharp?
Oh, sounds right.
He started a group, he quit Weezer, and then he started The Rentals. And the first one was very much just Moog synthesizers and a bunch of women singing with him.
Yeah.
The second record was highly orchestrated. He had a whole orchestra in there, and it was really big, a lot of production. And then I remember he talked about, after that, put that out, did a tour, and then didn't want to do anything that big anymore, and he said he started doing coffee shops. He lives in Seattle, around Seattle, with an acoustic guitar, and he said it took time for me to realize you don't need an entire orchestra to tell a girl that she broke your heart.
That's pretty cool.
So, because you've tried the big production, 100 different sounds.
Yeah.
But then when you strip it down, and it's just then about melody and lyrics, and you're just playing 4 chords sort of in time on an acoustic guitar, and sometimes that can say more.
Yeah, kind of like what Chris Ballou did. He now plays coffee shops in Seattle as Casper Baby Pants.
Yeah, for
kids shows, but they're for adults
Presidents of
too.
the United States of America. Yeah.
And so that's kind of fun too to see.
Yeah.
So I hope that the guys and I can turn a corner and do something that is just as accessible but simpler and easy and fun still.
Well, I urge you to just keep making records.
Yeah.
Keep putting them out, and not to chase any sort of success, so to speak. But when you are old, you can. Scroobius Pip has this line where he says, "If I only make one record before I kick the bucket, I can hold that record to my heart in my grave and say fuck it." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you'll have that.
That's good.
You'll say, regardless of if everybody liked it or not, or how many it sold, you can say, "This is how I felt at the time. This is how I chose to express it with the people that I love." And when you're on your deathbed, I don't know that much else is going to matter than that. Not that anything really matters entirely, but that will matter to you more than how many people at the show on whatever day.
Yeah, because what can you control outside of that? Not much.
So, and you make really good music together, so I encourage you to keep doing that.
Well, thanks. It's becoming more and more clear to me that you guys ask me here to interview me because you care. At first I was like, why did they even want to interview me? Because you can't see that outside of yourself.
Well, and it's that, and you've been doing this podcast, interviewing everyone else. People need to get to know you too.
Yeah, right. That's what you found it useful to do that, and I appreciate that because that's something I can't really. I tried sitting down on my own and kind of saying it, but I only get so far with that question. So
but he's not. I mean, he has fame. He's starting to get more fame, I think. But he's not doing it for.
He's just doing it because he enjoys it.
I feel like if that's
you're gonna fail.
Like I just graduated from YSU, and there were students there that were in the different aspects of studio art there that they think. I shouldn't say they think. Well, they are. They think they're going to make it, and they think they're going to, go to New York. Whatever that means. And they're going to go to New York and just make it and make big bucks, like be the next Jeff Koons or something. And it's like
whoever that is.
You know who that is. We've thought about that. You can't do that. I've come to learn that you can't do that because it's just like. If you have the intention that you're going to make it famous, then you lose your love for what you're going to do, and you can't.
And you're going to end up hating it.
Right. So Scroobius is a great example of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because and so is Sage. I think Sage Francis is a good example of that too. And he's very similar to you in terms of he does everything.
Yeah.
He does he sells his own merch.
Yeah, we went to see.
Yeah, we went to saw him in Grog Shop like 2 months ago.
2 months ago, and this tour he put together himself, booked it, drove there in his car, he's from Rhode Island, went up there on stage, plugged in his laptop, hit play, and did the best show I've ever seen.
That guy has way more overhead than we do then.
I didn't know he did all of that.
Yeah, and this is a guy who 2 years ago, while he was recording an album, almost died. He had a lung infection. He was very ill.
Weird. Oh my
And I think maybe that he took that time and goes, I'm either going to do this, continue doing this on my own, or not. And then he's with a label and everything, and it's his own label, he owns it. Just going out there and doing it.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
Right? So that's what you just have. If you love something, keep doing it. But if doing it makes you hate it, or if it ever feels like a job, take a break.
Yeah,
Take a break,
Take a break.
Or like you say, writing something. Take some photographs.
Yeah,
do a
do
painting.
something else.
Do a podcast.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think you're on the right track.
Just to keep it fresh. Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah, and I appreciate that you're doing the podcast in the way that you're doing it.
Yeah.
You're interviewing all sorts of people.
Yeah, hopefully it'll start
Creative
to mean something down that, like it won't be like a historical take on Ohio so much as like, people will probably like the demeanor of the people on the show.
Sure.
All people I know are so cool.
You're mostly artists, but you're not doing like the stereotype.
No, it's not. It's not really.
Yeah,
there's not a mission statement of like, here's the array of art in Ohio.
Right.
It's more just like, we'll find people, we'll talk.
Well, and most of the people you know are creative people in some way.
Yeah, in some way.
I mean, and everyone can be creative. It's a choice. I firmly believe that creativity is a choice. Coupled with a gift, making it great, but it's also a choice. Right?
I'm with you.
Because you're not born going, this is a guitar player.
Yeah, not
This
at
is
all.
a visual artist. That's a choice you made. It's something you saw in it when you were young. That made you go, I can do that. I'd like to do that. And then it's work.
Especially with the fingers you and I have. Nobody was like, these guys are guitar, piano.
Right.
Now, they're not bad. They're pretty good. Well, but we both have kind of worker fingers.
Yes. We
Yours
should
are kind of better.
We should have been in factories.
Yeah, we got worker fingers.
We do.
You got some nice ones.
You got some nice ones. That's
I got
good.
my Maria. So wait, do you still ask? I haven't listened to the last couple. You still ask the two questions,
Sometimes,
right?
usually it's tending to only like jump off like two of them now because people, I don't know if I've gotten better or if people have listened before they're interviewed, but
Yeah.
sometimes now they just.
Can you do the one that like took? You know, I had a list. I had a list.
Yeah.
And it's music related.
Yeah.
So you were on a deserted island.
Yeah, yeah.
What song would you pick? So that
it
you could
is-
listen to
Let
all.
him pick two.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
fine. Pick two.
Pick two songs.
Your Desert Island discs.
One. This is a song.
Dan Snyder accepted your invitation on LinkedIn.
Yes.
You've been waiting forever for that.
Yeah, but Mountain Goat's a song called.
Your last, I guess. Yeah.
Let me see. I guess I'll.
Because you would go crazy with just one song.
Just to change it up, I probably would choose a Daryl Hall and John Oates song, and I'd probably go with one called One on One.
Okay.
That's on H2O,
Right.
an album in the 80s, which would be nice because as much as I want to take a rap song with me,
Yeah.
I'll compromise by taking something that has some R&B and some light rock to it,
Yeah.
and a little bit of soul somewhere.
And your audience is aware of your stance on God, so we don't have to ask you that.
Yeah, I'm an agnostic.
Right.
Yeah. And then what else?
A
When I think of
progressive.
Nursery, I think of 100 things.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah.
I think of your podcast.
Yeah. I think of my podcast.
I think of your podcast now. I think
Yeah.
I said that on the last one.
I think of us being all babies at heart.
Yeah. Let me ask you this in regards to the podcast, and you can use this if you want. It just came to me. Is there any interview you'd like to do that you?
Yeah, I mean, Crystal recommended Chris Yambar, and he's
Yambar's
hard to get
alright.
to.
I can make that happen.
Yeah, and I've been
She's
talking to
connected.
him. He said he would do it. I'm not having a problem with him saying yes or no. It's just hard to get to him.
He's like
sometimes.
he's my number one fan.
That's
so we
cool.
can get
I'll
this.
get to him. But and then there was a guy the guy that's a barista here. I wanted to interview him, and he wouldn't let me just before you guys got here. And he gave me stuff that would have been really good. Apparently, he works at a bunch of Yoko Ono's exhibits and stuff,
Yeah,
and like knows
yeah.
her
Cool.
and stuff. And I was like, "Can I record you?" He's like, "Nah." So there's some people I just won't get to.
Yeah.
But I'd love to interview Mitch and Patricia.
Yeah.
And so those would be.
They're from Oregon originally as well.
Yeah. And then one of my dreams is to get Chris Ballou from the Presidents and Casper Bay Pants to do a little soundbite for me.
That'd be cool.
And I've been back
I'm sure
and
he's
forth.
accessible.
Yeah,
Email.
I've been emailing back and forth, and he's
Yeah.
responded, but
Cool.
he's just got stuff to do.
Yeah.
So it might not happen. But I'd love to get a little soundbite or an Ohio story, because I know he writes songs about Ohio.
Yeah,
Not
for sure.
them covering Cleveland Rocks, but on their last album, Kudos for You, they did a song called Ohio, and they've done songs about just touring and being on the road. It's from C-list celebrities and stuff.
Right. But in your book, I mean
That's us.
not like a hero. No, not like a.
He's tuned the same as everything.
Yeah.
Which is
So-
just a nice coincidence to know somebody else who plays a two-string.
Right, because they worked with what they had, as did you.
And their
Very DIY.
demos sound like us.
Absolutely.
They're just hanging out.
Yeah.
Well, I should go to work, but is there anything else?
You gotta go to work?
Yeah. Is there anything else you guys want to
I'm
add?
good. How you feel about it?
Great.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
You can tell your mom now you've been interviewed on your
Hey, Mom.
podcast.
Look, Mom. We're on a podcast.
Oh my god, podcast.
Stop listening. I know you don't like it.
Karen. I'm gonna go have a cigarette.
All right. All right, Karen. We're gonna have a cigarette. We'll
Bye,
see you
Karen.
later.
This is Jimmy Martin from the Speaking of Music show at YouTube. Thanks for listening to the Nursery Podcast.